Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So it all feels a bit odd this morning. This case that I'm going to talk about in this video about Nancy, poor Nancy, 84-year-old Nancy, taken from her bed, according to Savannah Guthrie, her daughter, and to the law enforcement, literally plucked from her own bed first thing, sort of early hours of the morning. Oh, poor Nancy. Anyway, feels quite sort of poignant today, even more so, because, of course, this has been a case that the media has been frantic to talk about, hasn't it? They're in the first. Can you believe it? It has now been 7 weeks. Nancy was stolen from her bed, stolen for family, 84 years old. I mean, let's let that sink in for a minute. So it's been 7 weeks, but we don't know anymore. We don't know who did it, do we? Unless, something magical has happened since the last time I looked at the news, and I'm looking at the news, feels like every 2 minutes about Nancy. Don't think there's been any developments since the last time I looked. No. Every tip matters. We've got an article here saying that Nancy Guthrie, lead cop, admits he's intentionally withholding vital clues from the public. These are so genetic genealogy avenues are being pursued. Yeah, I mean, they're still investigating into it. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's a cold case. It definitely isn't. But 7 weeks, CCTV footage, but no developments, no arrests. I'm going to read that article out in a moment. I'm just having a quick look at it, see if it is. See if it is. Yeah, no, it's just talking about the interview that he did with NBC the other day, so it's nothing new. There's nothing new. There's nothing new. But I feel a little bit sort of sad, even more sad about it, because of course, now after 7 weeks, where it's gone from being the only thing that was in the news, if you like, and it became a national. This all happened in Tucson, in America, in Arizona. Became a national case. Then it became an international case. Everybody talking about it. What's up with you? She likes to talk, our German Shepherd. Became a national case, then an international case. It was all you ever saw on the media, the social media, mainstream media, you name it. And then, of course, the war broke out. And it's all been about the war, isn't it? That's all we're seeing is about the war. And it's like Nancy's case has been forgotten by a lot of. It obviously hasn't been forgotten by her family. It's not been forgotten by us. We're still interested in what happened to Nancy. We want to know. A lot of us are totally invested in this Nancy Guthrie case. I feel like I've literally lived, breathed and slept it over the last 7 months, checking the news things every night, during the night, because obviously I live in Spain and it's a different time frame. So often when things are going on in America where this case happened, I'll be asleep, so every time I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm checking my phone, and there have been streamers there like JLR Investigates and a few others doing live streams every day, keeping us up to date. If even the postman comes round or someone comes to collect the post, or the school bus goes by, or the pool cleaner comes. You know, we've known every bit, everything that's going on. And apart from the first couple of weeks, when there was like a flurry of activity, people were detained, SWAT teams were going out, etc. There's been nothing recently at all, has there? You know, just these weird sort of press conferences, not even press conferences, interviewed by Sheriff Nanos, where he contradicts everything he's ever said before. Then the FBI come out and now they're saying they've got new CCTV images, but they're not releasing them. Have they got a suspect or haven't they? You know, I know it's an ongoing investigation, and there's reasons why these things secret. I really do understand all that. But in the meantime, they've sort of strangled the media coverage. You know, the media, bit by bit, that road outside Nancy Guthries' house, which was packed full of media, and also people coming to lay tributes for Nancy, people walking past, everybody interested, so that in the end, the sheriff's office banned parking along that road, didn't they? You're not allowed to park along there now, though streamers were still allowed to actually film. But it's so inconvenient, isn't it, if you've got to lug all your gear there and back to wherever you're able to park. Anyway, some streamers got round it. Some neighbours let them use their off-road parking. You know, let them use their driveways to park up. It just made it all a lot. But then I think gradually the streamers even never, well, first of all, the mainstream media people left because they went to cover the war. You know, war was sort of started, and that's why all our petrol prices are going up. And just amazes me sometimes on social media, you see the MAGA people blaming the Iranians. They didn't start the war at the end of the day. But anyway, never mind, we won't get into politics. All I know is I'm paying nearly double what I was paying before the war, and I'm sure you all are as well, for petrol. So it's very annoying. But anyway, there you go. Not as bad as I'm waking up to have bombs falling on you, I suppose. So gradually the mainstream media left, and now gradually, bit by bit, the streamers have gone, and JLR's gone today. I believe he said he was going if there wasn't any breakthroughs, and I can't see that there have been any breakthroughs. So, you know, it's awful, isn't it, really? Because I don't want Nancy to be forgotten. You know, I don't know how the family feel about it. You know, maybe the family are annoyed that there's all this attention on them, but they shouldn't be. There's people out there with missing loved ones who never had a shred of attention. I've watched a video about a case this morning, an unsolved murder from years ago. I didn't even know about it, and it was in the UK. I just can't believe I'd never heard of it. So there's people out there whose loved ones, crimes against their loved ones, disappearances or murders, etc., never get a bit of attention, or maybe they get, like, you know, a day's attention and then that's it. So, you know, I think if it was my loved one, I would want the full media attention on it until my loved one was brought home. I'd want everybody to know about it. Now, of course, along with the good press that you get, like if you like to share awareness and skeptics, you do get people accusing the family and stuff like that. But you sort of, I mean, what is better, you know, to have no attention on your loved one's case, or to have at least some attention? And yeah, you're always going to get the wackadoodles, as JLR calls them, the crazes, the craze. You're always going to get that in social media. You're always going to get negative people. But, you know, to me, I just don't understand why not only the family, but the neighbours there where Nancy lived. It's like they want the media to go away. I think I'd feel a lot safer if they were outside my house, to be honest. Then now, you know, this elderly lady's been taken from a bed in the middle of your community. How safe are you? You're a lot safer when the sheriff was there and when the media were there, and you're a lot safer then. When it all goes back to normal, whatever normal is in Nancy's neighbourhood, which is very isolated, somehow somebody got in her house and took her away without even anybody noticing. Nobody saw it because it's so pitch black. So do these neighbours really want to go back to that before this perpetrator's been caught? I mean, it's different once the perpetrator's caught. Yeah, they will want their neighbourhood back. But I'm sorry, if I lived there, I'd be quite happy to have the media camped outside my door and, the sheriff's patrol car parked in the garden. Oh my God, I'd be terrified. Anyway, we're going to talk about that and the neighbourhood reaction, etc. First of all, just want to say thank you, as usual, to everyone. Thank you for all your support of my channel. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you to those of you who go that bit further in supporting me, my members, people who buy me coffees, send super stickers, PayPal me, etc. Thank you. Those of you who send emails, suggest cases, or just leave nice comments. So sometimes, it does get very depressing sometimes reporting on crimes, especially like this one. But you know what? When I get a nice comment, I get a nice email, people say, oh, thank you for doing this. It just means so much. Can't even tell you how much it means. So thank you. I appreciate everyone who puts in a positive impact of any kind on my channel. Thank you. So, hi, lovely lurkers. Nice to see you. You're all looking very well. I hope you're well on this Monday. It's Monday, of course, if you're watching this live. Just another manic Monday. Mondays round so quickly, don't we? But we should be glad of that, really, that rolling round, because what's the alternative? Hi to Replay Crew. Thank you for watching. But now I'm going to see who's in the chat. Who's in the chat? There's a couple of you in there. I can see at least a couple of you are in there, brave enough to come into the chat. Thank you for that. Thank you to those of you who chat. Hi, Lily. Hi, Daniel. Annie. Hello, Annie. We've been spoiled, aren't we, lately? We've seen you, Annie. It's so nice to see you. I hope you're coping okay. Now then, so where is this case going to go now? Now that if the last streamers go today, which supposedly is happening. So yeah, the neighbourhood will have their neighbourhood back. But it's not a safe neighbourhood, is it? Is it? It's imagine if your next door neighbour, you found out your next door neighbour had been plucked out their bed in the early hours of the morning and taken God knows where and done. Nobody knows what they did to Nancy in there. They were in there 40 minutes. What did they do to him? We're going to have a look at the blood trail in a minute. The more I look at that blood trail, to me, it feels like it was blood dripping. Was she being carried out in a bag of some kind? Honestly, it's so perplexing, this case, because it's not only, we can understand why people break into people's properties to rob them. We can understand that. We're trying to make sense of this case, and we can't make sense of it because for a couple of reasons. If they broke in there to rob Nancy, people don't break in when people are there normally. And if they do, if they get disturbed, they're normally gone, just like that. They don't normally hang around. And they certainly, if something terrible does happen and somebody is hurt or killed in the process of a robbery, they don't take them with them. And in fact, it seems like Nancy was the only thing that disappeared from that house. Nothing was stolen. Burglars always take easy things. There will have been things, well, her phone was there for a start. They would have taken, I don't know, iPads or jewellery, or surely there was some things there that could have been easily picked up and taken for money. The other thing is the burglar, of course, took a full backpack with them. This is really playing on my mind. What was in that backpack? What burglar would go to burgle a house and take a full, absolutely packed full rucksack with them? That to me is, just incredible. Hi, Pam. Yeah, you've caught another live on here. That's good. Oh, sorry about you having to go to the hospice, but anyway, I hope. Anyway, yeah. So this case, because I've got to presume that's your mum, is it? That it resonates with all of us. This case, because this could be our mum, our grandma. It could be us in the future. This case is resonating with a lot of people, isn't it? So let's have a look. Well, I'm trying to think where to start with this. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about the what do you think about all the streamers going? Does that feel, to me, it feels bad. I don't know. It's like, to go from one extreme to another. 1 minute there were too many people, maybe then I can understand why the neighbours would get annoyed. They can't get along their own road, but it's gone from one extreme to another. Now there's nobody there, and there are some neighbours there that are glad of that, because there's been some sort of nasty signs left. They've treated the streamers' possessions badly and things like that. But then some neighbours were glad to have them there. I personally would be glad to have them there. So one of the streamers was round at Annie and Tommaso's house. So Annie is, of course, one of Nancy's daughters, and Tommaso is her husband. And of course, there's been all this controversy about Ashley Banfield saying that Tommaso was a suspect, and then Sheriff Nanos said no, all the family and their spouses have been cleared, with his conflicting information that he uses. Annie and Tommaso's car was taken away, which is fair enough, because Tommaso took Nancy home apparently in that car the night before she disappeared. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that it would be checked out, that Tommaso would be checked out, that Annie would be, because they were the last people to see Nancy before she went missing. Now, apparently, the car has been returned, and as I say, Nanos has come out and said none of the family or their spouses are suspects. But people are still lingering with these suspicions on Tommaso, mainly because of what Ashley Banfield said. But then Ashley Banfield came back about it and said, well, that was what her source told her, and Sheriff Nanos seemed to, in the first couple of days, he was telling everyone, oh no, there's nothing to worry about. Now suddenly he's telling everybody, yes, you have got something to worry about. He's so conflicted. Anyway, apparently one of the streamers, I think it was Tucson, I'm not sure which one it was there yesterday. Hi Pam, hi Moonbeam. And Tom came out. I think, let me do this. So if your loved one was missing, now this streamer was outside his house filming the house, taking some film of the house. He wasn't on the property, he was in the street. And of course, although it reminded me a bit of, in the Nicola Bully case, when that horrible Curtis Arnold kept turning up in Nicola's, where Nicola went missing, and telling people he wasn't filming, but really were. At least these streamers, they're filming like openly, they're not. I've seen quite a few of Arnold's videos where he's saying he wasn't videoing, and he actually was. And then, of course, it turned out he was an SEX offender himself anyway. And now he does those horrible types of videos like Auditing Britain and things. So, I've gone. The only thing I liked about his videos were he's very good at making videos. They're very impressive visually videos. But the way he went round, you know, and anyway, in the end, he got barred from the area. And then he got barred from the area. And then as soon as his bar was over with, I think it was for a month, he couldn't go. He was straight back there again, wasn't he? He was a pain in the ass. Hi, True Crime Movement. Oh, thank you for that. That's very kind. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. So that's what this streamer was doing. He was outside Tommaso's house. He was filming in the street, but he was filming the house. How would we feel? You know, it makes you, it must have been irritating. But the thing is, he was in a public street, you know, so he had every right to be there filming. But of course, what we mustn't forget about Tommaso is he's come under scrutiny as well. He's probably sick to death of people, you know, he's returned to his house and now somebody's out there and you know, filming his house. You know, I think if you put yourself in that position, if every morning I came out and there was somebody in the street filming me, and we're talking about every day, of course, as well, you know, this is not just someone coming one day and then going away, you know, and also you've been under suspicion and you're innocent, of course. I mean, you know, we have to assume that Tommaso is innocent because, well, he's not been charged with anything for a start, and the sheriff said they've all been cleared. I haven't played the video yet, Angel. That's why you can't see the video, because I'm not playing it yet. I'm just talking about it. That's why you can't see it. There's nothing wrong with your video. So yeah, you can see why you'd be annoyed. But I've got to say, when I watched it, I'm going to find it in a minute and show you. It did remind me a bit of with Gus Lamont. You know, that little boy over in Australia, when the Daily Mail reporter went round to the sheep station and the GMA, Josie sort of saw her off with a bloody pump action shotgun. Oh no, Tommaso didn't do that. Tommaso apparently just called out and said, "What are you doing? And you need to go." Or so, they didn't threaten anybody with a gun like the GMA did, the Annie Oakley did. And of course, she's now under suspicion. The police have now said that she is a suspect in the disappearance of Gus, and they've declared it a major crime. So it did sort of, you know, I thought if it was me, I think if they were there every day in, day out, in the end, you'd have to go out and say something. But when somebody just turns up one time, so they've obviously moved back into the house, I imagine. This guy's there. Would you have to go out and be aggressive towards them? You'd just say, "Do you mind please moving on?" And to be fair, the streamer, he just said, "Oh, I'll go." You know, didn't put up, he didn't say, "Oh, I've got every right to be here," which he has got every right to be there, but of course it's just not very nice. He didn't say that. So, you know, he was polite, he was respectful. He said, "Okay, I'm going," and off he went. And in fact, the video that he caught of Tommaso, you can't see much, it's quite far away. I don't think you can even hear it that well. But anyway. Oh, you've got a black screen across all of your YouTube videos in your mobile, Angel. Oh. Yeah, Annie, isn't it? I mean, it's a very horrible thought. It's horrible. I just think this is not random in any way, shape or form. I don't believe it's random. And I believe they went there to take Nancy away. And sadly, I think they probably did something to her there. Anyway, first of all, let's just have a look at the video of Tommaso. Where will that be? It'll be on JLR's feed. So yeah, JLR's going today. You know, I mean, there's a limit, isn't there, to what you can you know, you can't talk about nothing. You can't just sit outside an empty house. Apparently he's being stalked now, JLR, so that's interesting. Okay, let's have a look at this video. Let me just put it on. Oh, I can't put it on full until I've shared it. Hang on. Right, just bear with me 2 minutes and I'll put this video on. I'm presuming that everybody else can. I'm not gone black over everybody's phone, have I? Okay. This is the video that was taken. Let me just make sure it's sharing. Yeah, I would try turning off and back on again, or like come out of the app and go back in. Sometimes that works, doesn't it? Okay, this is the video of. So this is Annie and Tommaso's house. Now you'll find that you can't see it. So this streamer can see it's right over the other side of the road. He's not exactly, you know, right next to the house, you know, peering in and taking videos in the house. I think if this was me, if I was Tommaso, I just wouldn't have said anything unless I kept seeing him day in, day out. On this just one occasion, I would just let it go because you play right into their hands in a way, like that Josie with the Daily Mail reporter. You know, Josie came out with a big muscly arms and a bloody pump action shotgun and shouted at the reporter and told her to go away. And she just looked so aggressive, it made more of a story of it. If you don't go out, you don't make a story of it.
Just filming the road. I'll leave.
So you can't even really see Tommaso. I can't see him really. There are some that have made it a bit closer up, but he doesn't come very far out, Tommaso. He only stays sort of near the house. He doesn't come right to the front of the property. And he just says, what you doing or whatever. And you can hear the guy says, oh, I'm just filming the road. I'll go. Let's just watch that again from the beginning.
Just filming the road. I'll leave. Huh? I will.
Oh, there he is, Tommaso. Yes, he's got very white beard, Tommaso. He's definitely not the person in the CCTV footage, though. That is 100% not Tommaso. I think unless he had, you know, he actually coloured in his beard or whatever. I don't think it's him. But of course, a lot of people still won't let go of the fact that Tommaso, in their eyes, is a suspect because the car was taken away because he's a son-in-law, because he's foreign, I don't know, you know, and because it makes more sense, I suppose, for someone in the family to be involved. I think the problem that people have got with this case is they can't get their head around it. It's like, why? You know, I think if they could find the motive, I mean, the sheriff says they know the motive. To me, if you know the motive, you should be able to find the perp, because that's the whole basis of this. Who was that person, and why did they target Nancy? Or is it some sort of serial sex offender against old ladies, or against thing is about sex offenders like Dennis Rader, Bind, Torture, Kill, and many of them. They're not all like Ted Bundy, for example. He had a type that he did tend to go for, like young girls with dark hair parted in the middle, etc. Though that wasn't his only person. He did murder one child towards the end as well. But most killers, attackers, they do have a type of victim that they tend to go for. But a lot of sex attackers, they don't have a type. The Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, he was another one. He didn't have a type. It's just vulnerable people. So, and I remember seeing Israel Keys. He was another serial killer who, in an interview, just said, "Oh, you know, you go out, you find what you can, and sometimes you strike lucky." You know, he literally, it didn't matter who his victims were. He would go and case out the house. He would avoid houses with alarms or dogs. That's what he would avoid. That you know, this was probably more pre-security cameras and things. But it was dogs and anything that made a noise, anything that he would avoid. Now, Nancy didn't have a dog living at her house, and you know, it's not exclusive that attackers avoid dogs, but dogs just make it more complicated. Thing is, all you can do, if somebody really wants to get in your house, they can get in your house. Of course, they can if they were determined enough. But all you can do is make it as difficult as possible for them, so they won't, you know, they don't want to be there for a length of time. Although this one, that's another thing that's weird. What were they doing in there for 40 minutes if they didn't take anything except Nancy? You know, it makes you go cold, doesn't it, to think about. I am leaning more towards the fact that I think Nancy was probably killed in the house. And those that blood trail maybe was blood dripping from something. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. I can't see why they were in the house for 40 minutes. I just can't, you know, if Nancy disturbed them when they were in the middle of a burglary, they'd want to get out of there as quick as possible, wouldn't they? And they certainly would not take her with them. Anyway, sorry, let's just watch this again.
Just filming the road. I'll leave. Huh? I will.
So I think he said something like, "You better leave," or something like that. And he said, "I will."
That was Tommaso. Holy shit. That's the first time I've seen Tommaso and talk. Just filming the road. I'll leave. Huh? I will.
Now, of course, Tommaso, now his mother-in-law's gone missing. Nobody knows where she is. He's protecting his wife and his family, I would imagine. I don't know if they've got children or not. So you can't blame him for coming out and saying, "Well, what are you doing? What are you doing here?" He could be the perpetrator. You know, this streamer, as far as Tommaso knows, it could be the guy that actually kidnapped Nancy, couldn't he? You know, he doesn't know who it is. You know. Now, just looking at the chat there, Moonbeam, the Epstein connection. Yeah, there's something in that, isn't there? Or it feels strange that, you know, so yes, Savannah, she did interview all the Epstein survivors, didn't she? Yes. The trouble is, the more you think about this case and the various possibilities, you literally go round in circles and come back to the beginning where you have no clue again. You know, because I think none of us can understand why an 84-year-old woman would be taken like that. Can understand why she would be burgled, but all the experts say that people are normally burgled when they're not there. Somebody I was watching said, when people go to burgle, they go when the person is not there. When they go to kill, they go when the person is there. Look at the Tepes. You know, there's some Monique and Spencer Tepe and her ex-husband. We need to do another review of that case on what's going on, because her ex-husband, he went there in the early hours of the morning, didn't he? Well, they think he may have been there in other times when there was nobody there. But when he went to kill them, he went in the middle of the morning, you know, similar time, early hours of the morning. He wanted them to be there because he wanted to kill them. So whoever went into Nancy's house, they wanted her to be there. Unless there was a mistake made, some people are saying, But again, this is total conjecture. You know, was she supposed to stay at Annie and Tommaso's that night, and did she decide to come home unexpectedly? We don't know. We don't. All we know is this person, whoever did it, they knew something about Nancy. They targeted her. They knew she was an elderly lady living on her own, and they either targeted her to rob her. But there's lots of time. She, you know, they'd only have to watch her for a little while. She goes to the church, goes to a friend's house every Sunday. That's where she was supposed to be the next Sunday morning, wasn't she? She goes to her friend's house on a Sunday to watch the church service with her. Why didn't they go then? Why didn't they, you know, if they'd been watching her movements, they would know that every Sunday she went to her friend's house and watched a church service for a couple of hours. There's the time that you go in and burgle someone. Or they'd be watching her and she'd see her go off in an Uber. Thing is, when you see somebody go off in an Uber, you know you've got at least an hour, even if they've only gone somewhere local, maybe shopping or whatever. You know that that's time you can break in, and you've got at least an hour before they come back. It doesn't make sense to burgle someone when they're actually there. If that is your only motive, to steal things, why would you go in when that person was there? Nancy did go out. She did have a routine where she would go out every Sunday to church, or to not to church, but to watch the church service. She had a routine. I had a student of mine, those who don't know, I'm a Spanish teacher in my other life, and one of my students, God bless her, she and her husband, they had a big villa here in Spain with a high wall and a sliding door, you know, like a sliding garage door. So when they brought the car out, and then it would take a couple of minutes for the door to close again. They went off to Mercadona, to the local supermarket, and when they came back, they'd been burgled. You know, their house, and the only way these people could have got in was they've waited for that door to open, for the car to come out, and then as they've driven off and the door is just closing itself, they've gone in then. So they've been watching them, and then just took advantage of the fact, you know, unless they were opportunists, because you do get that too. Somebody just walking past, I don't know. But, you know, they'd look at her house and think, oh, she's got a nice villa with a pool and that, she's probably got some valuables lying around. But that's the only way they could have got in. So as my student and her husband, you can imagine how that made her feel afterwards, that people had been watching. As they drove off to the supermarket, these people were in their house ransacking it and taking valuables, and they just take what they can walk away with. You know, sometimes that's the other thing that's strange, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll use a suitcase or a rucksack from the house, won't they? They'll go and find something to put their ill-gotten gains in. Anyway, so they come back from the supermarket an hour later and they've been burgled. You can imagine how she felt. That I think the worst thing for her, well, obviously, because they'd been in her house, it's horrible when someone goes in your private property and you think, oh my God, I've touch wood, I've been burgled once many years ago. And I think, yeah, that's what upset. I remember being upset that they'd been watching, because I lived at the time in like it was like a great big old house, but it'd been divided into flats in Manchester, in Alexandra Park. People might know that area. There's a lot of these big old houses that used to belong to the industrialists. And then, you know, property developments have made them into bedsits or one-bedroom flats, etc. So there were a lot of people living in that house. I was in one of the flats, but there were probably 6 different flats in that house. And what upset me the most was I thought, they've waited till we're all out. They've been watching us because we all worked. So what they'd done is come in the morning after the last person had gone to work. That might have been me. I don't know. Who did they see coming out of there? I didn't even know the other people that were living in those flats. You know what it's like when you live in flats and things. You don't get to know necessarily your neighbours. I only knew one couple that lived there. All the other people I didn't know. Could have been one of them, of course. Could have been one of the other people that lived in the flats. But so they'd waited till we'd all gone out to work, I suppose. And then when I got home from work at about 6 o'clock that evening, I was greeted with from one of the, this couple that I knew. Oh, we've all been robbed. And they'd literally gone in on the ground floor and worked their way up this house and gone into every single flat. And I remember it just made me go, Cox, they're going through your personal possessions and things. And, it's a horrible feeling, isn't it? It's a horrible feeling if you're ever burgled or whatever. And touch wood, it's not happened to me since. I hope it never happens to me again. Touch wood. Toca Madeira. But there you go, I'm waffling now and I forgot. So so normally burglars will go in when you're not there, especially if you've got some sort of routine. I mean, there's other people who don't have routines. Maybe if you don't work, you don't go out and come back at certain times. And Nancy, of course, she wasn't working, but every Sunday, they would only have to watch her for a couple of weeks to know that every Sunday she went round to her friends. They wouldn't know she was going for a church service, but they'd know that every Sunday at a certain time, Nancy would get up, go off to her friends. That's when they would have gone in and robbed her, in my opinion. I think when they went in there in that Sunday morning, they were going in for a different reason, which sadly I think is a reason that means that probably Nancy is not alive anymore. Personally, that's what I think, which I know is sad. But anyway, I can't see that she is. So that was Tommaso getting angry. What I want to show you now is the blood spatter. So somebody that I follow on X, that's sharing. They brought it up because I'd forgotten about the video about the blood spatter. I was sort of when it was a couple of weeks ago when this came up, wasn't it? When Sheriff Nannis, in his infinite wisdom, decided to remove the crime scene tape, even though, because he seemed to be confident they knew he'd done it, then it makes you wonder, did he think then that it was Tommaso, and was he confident in that? Is that where all these rumours come from? Did he tell someone he thought it was Tommaso and they told Ashley Banfield? Why did they take the crime scene tape down within a couple of days? I wonder why. It's just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Or is he just such an idiot that he did that? Or was it because he thought that the investigation was pointing a certain way and then in the end it didn't? I don't know. So we can see that this is Nancy's porch, the pathway up to her house. Let's just see how far this blood trail goes. It's quite long. So here's the porch. This is where the CCTV was of the perpetrator standing in this entranceway. And Brian Ensign, because the crime scene tape, nobody was controlling the scene at that time whatsoever. There was no sheriff's van there even. They'd taken the crime scene tape down, but there wasn't even a sheriff's patrol van there to stop people. I mean, it's crazy, really, when you think about it. A woman's disappeared in the middle of the night. There's blood everywhere. We don't know how far the blood goes in. People are saying that it went in quite far. What happened? What blood was found there that Sheriff Nanos also said he was convinced it was a homicide. That he forgets what he said, but he did say that. He said it was a crime from day one. Day one, he said it was a crime. And I'm presuming that part of the reason he said it was a crime was because of all the blood everywhere. Now, it's not enough blood that someone would be dead after it, like some people have suggested. Oh, it was a nosebleed. I had some idiot on my Twitter this morning saying, oh, no, that's been debunked. The family said she was prone to nosebleeds. Listen, there's no way that Nancy would have had a nosebleed and left it, like all the blood on the porch there. I don't believe that she would. But also, the family have never said that. That's rubbish. You know, so this is what you've got. So I answered them and I said, oh, can you tell me your source, please? And then because he's like, oh, yeah, well, the family said this. So this is it. People say things and they're not true. So when I started investigating it then, there is the family have never said that. This is not true, what people are saying. And the police said it is Nancy's blood. That's what we do know. We don't know what caused it. But let's see how far it goes. That goes right up the path. Only little spots, of course. But makes you wonder, was it dripping from something? Looked to me like it was dripping from something, which makes me go cold, really, because did they carry Nancy out of that house? Where is that blood? It's Nancy's blood. That we do know. It's definitely Nancy's. And apparently it was also on a rock, one of these rocks, I think, at the beginning of the path. You know, so where has that blood dripped from? Has it dripped from, did Nancy have a cut? There's talk about her being on blood thinners, so that have made her bleed more? There drips, so it's not enough blood to. But I just wonder, where did that come from? Did it drip from something? I know it sounds awful, but that's just how I feel. And it's the pattern of it as well. It's like all over the place, isn't it? So if somebody came out with carrying something and then they turned round came out, they shut the door, turned round and walked up the path. Now there's more. The most of it, of course, is right up at the porch. And then as you go down the path, that's where the most of the path, as it goes down the path, it gets less and less. What do you think? Let me know what you, honestly, my head's, we're all confused, so confused over this case. So there's more up near the door, and then as it goes further up the path, it does get less, doesn't it? Now, I asked AI about it. What did it say? Let me see. Okay, so AI say, so this is only AI, so I just want to make this clear. This is not official things that are coming out or whatever. I'm not an expert on blood spatter, so I'm just saying that I'm just reading you when I asked AI what it said. And it said, based on information following the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, from her Tucson, Arizona home, February the 1st, 2026. Confirmed blood evidence. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos confirmed that blood found on the porch of Nancy Guthrie's home belongs to her. So that we do know. It is Nancy's blood. That is 100%. That's about the only certain thing we know in this case. The nature of the blood. Forensic experts and law enforcement indicated that the blood droplets suggest she was bleeding from her face or hands, which is consistent with a violent encounter or abduction. Family stance. While the family has not officially released a statement confirming that a nosebleed specifically, expert analysis of the scene indicates that the blood is consistent with a sudden struggle or injury rather than a minor accidental cut. Family cleared. The Pima County Sheriff explicitly stated that none of Nancy Guthrie's family members or their spouses are suspects in the case, confirming they are victims and they have been cooperative. And the current status of this case, a masked individual was captured on camera at the residence, and the case is being treated as a criminal abduction, according to local police and the FBI, who are still investigating. And the family has offered $1 million reward for information leading to her recovery. Hey, poor Nancy. Poor Nancy. I mean, our hope is that she is still alive. Of course, that's all our hopes. But you just can't imagine it. You know, we just can't believe.
Blood found on Nancy Guthries' doorstep was confirmed to be hers. We also know foreign DNA that does not match Nancy's, was found.
Well, it's quite a lot here, look. Quite a lot here near where the flowers are. You know, of course, they picked up those flowers. Why is there quite a big spatter here? Let's watch that again.
Blood found on Nancy Guthries' doorstep was confirmed to be hers. We also know foreign DNA that does not match Nancy's, was found in the...
Yeah, there's a lot there, and then it seems to peter out.
Was confirmed to be hers. We also know foreign DNA that does not match Nancy's, was found in the 84-year-old's home. Blood found on Nancy Guthrie's doorstep was confirmed to be hers. We also know
Let me go to the next one. It's a photo. So you can see clearly the biggest patch is here near where the flowers were put up. And then that's quite a big spatter. And then as it comes out and up the path, it gets less and less. You know, it is, and it is Nancy's blood. So it's not that the perpetrator has cut themselves or whatever. It is definitely Nancy's blood. So is it dripping from somewhere? You know, or is it dripping from Nancy? Was she alive as they took her out of there? But she was injured, bleeding. Maybe she'd been punched in the face. It's so... Now, you know how they've got this CCTV of this guy right in front? Surely, do you think they've managed to get any more? Maybe they've got CCTV of Nancy being carried out. Do you think they have? I mean, would they have really taken Nancy out of the front door? I know it's dark there. I know it's a very dark place, and it was the early hours of the morning, and you would presume that nobody would be going past. But I still think that's a big chance to take, isn't it? Come out of Nancy Guthrie's door with her over their shoulder, or even holding her up as she's bleeding. Don't you think that's a massive chance to take? And this guy, he was not dressed for the darkness. He had light clothes on. He had a rucksack with him with reflective strips. So if somebody would have driven past, and somebody might have driven past, somebody coming back from the pub, or, you know, I don't know, just someone coming home from work who does a night shift, somebody could have gone past. But they have taken that, you know, taken the chance, unless Nancy was in some sort of, you know, being carried in something, so that if somebody did see them, well, they would think it was strange, whatever, wouldn't they? If you saw a masked man coming out, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? So Annie's saying that they got burgled years back, and they filled our duvet covers to take stuff. When I came in, they were in our house with the chain on the door, looking at me out the bedroom window. Yeah, that happened to a friend of mine. Funnily enough, I was with her. She lived in Gorton in Manchester, and we'd been out, I don't know where we'd been, probably been to the pub or whatever. I was staying over at her house. And as she lived in like a little terrace house in Gorton in Manchester, if anybody knows it. And we went up the path, and when she put her key into the door, she couldn't get the door open. She couldn't get the door open. And she's going, oh, the key's not working. The key's not working. And then she went, oh my God, someone's put the bolt on the inside of the door. It just clicked with her that it was bolted from the inside. So these young lads, and they were young lads, and I'll tell you how we know that, because she did catch them, not that day. They then ran out the back door, because these little terrace houses, you know, like they have a ginnel out the back, like you see on Coronation Street. So what these lads had done is they'd run out the back door. By the time we went through the alleyway, and then back, they'd gone, and we went in through the back door, and they put the bolt on the front door. So she put a key in and turned it, but she couldn't open the door. So we called the police, obviously, and, you know, I can't even remember if the police actually even came round, you know. And anyway, about a week after, she was on the bus, of all places. Now, her or a boyfriend, it was either her or a boyfriend, had a Beatles collection, loved the Beatles, had, in those days, it was tapes, you know, had every Beatles, you know, album, etc., or it might have been records, I don't know. But anyway, she's on the bus and she overhears these two young boys, teenage boys, talking. One's saying, oh, I only got I don't know, whatever he got, maybe it was an iPod or something to listen to music to, or he got something. And this other lad said, oh, well, I just got that shitty Beatles collection. You know, they were talking about it openly on the bus, about their, obviously they didn't know that, my friend, I won't mention her name actually, they didn't know it was her house. They were sat in front of her or behind her on the bus, and she could hear what they were saying. So she did a citizen's arrest. She did a citizen's arrest and sort of got them virtually by the ears, you know, like some sort of thing that you see on the telly, and marched them off to the police station. You know, I doubt very much if they got, you know, they were minors, so probably didn't, I don't even know what happened to them in the end. But yeah, bloody cheap. But anyway, yeah, very similar to what you say, Annie. You know, she's trying to get in the house. There is still in the house. And they've bolted the door from the inside so she couldn't get in. Now, this was a long time ago. And when I say a long time, I'm talking 40 years ago. These days, they'd have a bloody machete, wouldn't they? You know, it's even scarier. The kids those days, weren't carrying knives around with them and everything. Bloody hell, they'd stab you now as soon as look at you, especially in Manchester. You know, it's horrible. It's horrible to be robbed, because, you know what, in this mad world, we live in a mad world. It's unsafe. A lot of places you go, you know, you're always dealing with people, aren't you, and their craziness. But in your home, home, that's where you should feel safe. That's I think what makes this case so very awful. Is somebody that was at home and should have been safe. If you can't be safe at home, where can you be safe? You know, it's like terrifying, isn't it? Most of us, we come in, you know, from having to be, I'm very lucky, I work at home. So that's lucky I'm here, you know, even when I'm working. But, you know, you have to go out the house sometimes, unfortunately. But, you know, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy going out of the house. I never look forward to it. But when I go out, I normally think, oh, I should come out more. And then, you know, then I get back in my little bubble again. But yeah, you come in, you close the door behind you, you breathe a sigh of relief, you think, right, I'm at home now, I'm going to relax. Yeah. And if you're not even safe in your home, terrible, isn't it, not to be safe in your home? Not to feel safe in your home. And as I think I've said to you before, at least make sure, I mean, I've got 3 dogs in my home and a heavyweight box, you know, so I'm presuming I'm safe more or less, but no one's completely safe. But at least in your bedroom, you know, if Nancy, she lived there so long and she probably did, you know, went off to bed, didn't even think to barricade her bedroom door or, you know, I tell you, my bedroom, nobody would get in my bedroom. Unfortunately, if anything ever happened to me, they'd be struggling to get in it, because I just think if they're going to come into the house, you know, you can't make your house like Fort Knox. You can only do the best you can. I don't think anybody could get in, but, you know, these are, the other thing you have to remember, robbers, they are experts. You know, there's a lot of gangs here in Spain that literally, I've been told this by the Guardia Civil, they come from Morocco, organised gangs. They bring children with them to get into little open windows. They bring literally, because quite often, you know, I used to take people to interpret for them at the police station when they'd been robbed. They say, well, I don't know how they got in. You know, there was just this tiny little window open, or a cat flap even, or they bring children with them. And they send the children in to open the doors. And then they go in and rob the place. And the thing is as well, if anyone gets caught who's under 16, the police can't hold them. So I'm literally told that by the Guardia Civil. So what they do is somebody goes and gets them out of custody, and off they go back to Morocco again, and then they bring a different. It's like Oliver Twist, you know, Fagin, using kids to break into places. And this is a fact of life in Spain. There are a lot of robberies in Spain, mainly in the tourist areas, because at the end of the day, people know when somebody's out here on holiday, one, they've got their holiday brain on, you know, they don't seem to think anything can happen to them when they're on holiday. They take more chances, like leaving windows open or doors open even. They carry a lot of money around with them. They have valuables. They have their phones, their, I don't know, cameras, it would have been once. I took one girl once to the Guardia Civil, and when she was listing through everything she'd had stolen, I mean, the Guardia, you could see by his face, he was just like, what? Because I think it was a bag that was taken from the beach, and it was all designer. You know, so it was designer bag, it was designer purse, it was, and why shouldn't she have all that? I mean, you know, but I just remember this guy, I'm just thinking, trying not to meet his eyes, because I could see in his face, he's thinking, why did you take all that to the beach? Now, she could have been trying it on for insurance for all I know. I don't know. My job's not to judge anybody what they have or what they should take to the beach or shouldn't take to the beach. But, you know, I'm just there to interpret, you know, I'm just there. She tells me what she's had stolen. I tell the Guardia, they do a statement. That means that when she goes home, she can claim on her insurance. But, you know, sometimes, you can just see by their face. They are quite forbidding, the Guardia. But the thing is, they live here, don't they? Like I live here. I would never take a load of things to the beach. When I go to the beach, I literally take a towel, a bottle of water, a little change purse with maybe, I don't know, 10 euros in it. Even my car keys I hide under my towel, because they do that. They'll take you want to go in the sea, or they're walking past and you don't notice, and they'll have your keys. If they've seen you park up and they know what your car is, they'll take your car. Now, they don't take your car to have a car. They take your car and they use your car to do another load of robberies. That's what they do. And then they leave your car somewhere. They don't want to be caught in your car. They'll probably go off and do some robberies somewhere and then dump it as soon as possible. This is what they do. They're organized. The thing is, this is what they do for a living. They're professionals. They're not, you know, you think, oh, how could they have done that? How could they say it? But that's what they do for a living. Same as pickpockets. You know, they are, you know, pick a pocket or two. Again, we're going back to Oliver Twist there, aren't we? You know, that's what they do. It's not something they just, you know, do every now and again. That is their job, and they know how to do it. Hi, old hippie. Yeah, the old days. Well, the old days, there was still a lot of bad things going on. The only difference in the old days was we didn't get to know about it, did we? Now, when something bad happens right over there in Tucson, Arizona, I get to hear about it in Spain. And because I'm talking about it, people get to hear about it in Australia, New Zealand, in Great Britain, Europe. You know, this is the thing now, but that should make us more aware and more careful. I don't know if as a whole crime has gone down, because we should be more aware now of things than we used to be, because I don't know what sort of difference that has made. But anyway, the thing is, you've got to live your life. You've got to live your life. You can't be always scared of something happening to you. You've just got to let it go, you know, because otherwise you wouldn't live your life, would you? But you know, that doesn't mean say you've got to leave your brains behind you. I mean, believe me, when people go on holiday, they do leave their brains behind them. They do have their holiday brains. It's like they don't think, you know, they might not walk through a street in Manchester at 3 o'clock in the morning with their handbag just loosely over their shoulder, like, you know, but they'll do it here in Spain because they don't think anything will happen to them while they're on holiday, or bad things don't happen in the sun, or, you know, you've always got to be vigilant. Always. That's all I'm saying. No, just remembered I've actually got my lunch on the stove. I hope it's not all burnt to a frazzle. Anyway, that's really just what I wanted to talk about here. I wanted to look again at the blood thing and realizing, you know, how much, really, that is quite a lot of blood. You know, big splodges of blood. Where's it come from? You know, was somebody carrying Annie, or is that sorry, not Annie, carrying Nancy, or was that Nancy walking out with a nosebleed or a cut or something, or was it dripping from something? The other thing I just want to say is, what do you think Tommaso is right to get angry with people that are standing in the street? You know, one streamer that was standing there, you know, as perhaps Tommaso is just at the end of his tether, you know, with it all. And then the other thing, I just, you know, to me, I don't understand why some of the neighbours of Nancy are happy that the media have gone and that the sheriff's patrol vehicle has gone. I would be happier if I lived there near Nancy. I would be happier that there was still a load of media there, and that there was still a sheriff's patrol car there until the guy's caught. Obviously, once the guy's caught, you want to go back to normal. But I couldn't relax for a minute knowing that this had happened near me. I would much prefer that there were more people around than less. But anyway, everybody's different. And the last thing that, what do you think about all these streamers leaving? So there's going to be nobody there today. I think it's Tucson, the guy called Tucson, or some of the others, and even JLR, because he lives, of course, in Florida. So it's a plane journey away. He said he would come back as soon as there's any developments. It's just that he can't just stay there while there's nothing going on. I can't do an American accent, can't do any accents. But yeah, he's just sitting outside the house waiting for something to happen. And there's not even other people sitting out there now, so it's just, so he's gone. He's going today or this afternoon when America wakes up, unless there is some sort of a break. But he did say he will be back if something does break. So, will we find anything out today? That's what we say every day. So 7 weeks have gone by. We don't know anything more than we knew in the beginning. In fact, we know less. I think it's more confusing now than in the beginning. But listen, you all stay safe. Make sure your homes are safe, secure. Always be vigilant. When you've always got to be vigilant of your surroundings and people around you, for various reasons. Doesn't mean to say don't go anywhere, don't do anything. But the thing is, if you're not safe in your own home, where are you safe? Okay, I'll see you really soon in the next video. I want to say thank you again to True Crime. Thank you for the super sticker, New Zealand, from New Zealand. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll see you really soon in the next video. Prayers for Nancy and her family, of course. Hope for a break in this case soon. Thank you. Take care. See you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you.